Hi guys, so today's video is going to be a list of 10 more things that bookworms hate hearing. So a little bit of setup for this. A few weeks ago, I did a video where I found this list of 10 things that bookworms hate hearing, and the list was really weird. And then I asked you, what are things that you actually hate hearing as a bookworm? And there were a lot that I think a lot of people can relate to. So I have a part 1 to this as well as a reaction video to that list, and I'll have it linked down below, but this would be part 2. I'm just going to jump right into it. The first one would be talk to me when you've reread the series. So this is something you see pretty often with, I would say, honestly, adult fantasy and those really big epic series. This, to me, what I actually hear when you say, talk to me when you've reread the series, at least once, at least twice, at least 4 times. Whenever I hear those sorts of things, what I actually hear is, come talk to me when you're as entitled and privileged as I am and you have tons of time on your hands. Because, I'm sorry, a lot of us like to read, but we don't have the time to reread the same thing over and over again, especially if it's a 10-book long series, a 14-book long series. People don't have the time to do that. A lot of people don't have the time to do that. So to say that you can't partake in a conversation about a book or you can't be a member of a fandom if you haven't reread it a bunch, I don't understand that. I think that's so ridiculous. Now, is it true that a lot of times you're going to notice things on reread? Of course. And I know something like Name of the Wind, which people have had lots of time to reread in anticipation for following books. A lot of times you're going to be able to have theories come up. Same with Storm My Archive. You're going to have theories come up if you go back and you reread and you notice these details, and then you spend time on different forums where people are speculating. You're going to definitely have fun being a member of those communities. You're going to definitely see things that you didn't see before. There are going to be some things that you absolutely probably can't see the first time because hindsight is 2020. But I think it's really rude and also stupid to tell somebody they can't be a part of this conversation. They can't be a fan. They can't know what they're talking about if they haven't reread the books. This next one would be that comics and manga graphic novels aren't real books. And I get if you mean literally it's not a full-length novel. Of course it's not a full-length novel. Duh. But to act like it doesn't count or that they're not really worth anything, there's no value in reading them, they don't have some profound meanings within them, I think is just so elitist. And what's sad about a lot of the things that all of you listed, because that's where I got these lists, is most of these things come from other bookworms. And I'm like, hey everybody, can we be a little less judgy? I just don't understand. We're a whole group of people that are constantly putting ourselves in somebody else's head, in someone else's shoes and circumstances, and then we're trying to relate to that, whether it's exactly the same as our circumstances or not. So we're practicing empathy through fiction, and then we can't practice it in real life and we have to be snobby all the time. I just can't. I don't get it. I don't get it. But what's really funny to me about this is my husband really likes manga and comics. My husband also really likes literary fiction and some of the type of books, like some of that audience looks down at the genre reader sort of thing, and it's great. I love being married to somebody who likes this over here and then likes this over here, and he doesn't care what everybody else reads, just like I don't care what you read. As long as you're not reading something with the intention of harming people, then why does anybody care? This next one is reading is a waste of time. I'm gonna be honest, I have never experienced somebody telling me that reading is a waste of time. I think in all of my time making booktube videos, I have had one comment that was like, who even reads? What a nerd. And it was hilarious to me. I was not offended in the slightest because I'm like, okay, I mean, all right, man, I guess, but I think my Witcher reading order video when I was talking about, because it is a little complicated to know where to start with the Witcher series, and so that's where that comment got left, and I'm like, well, then why would you watch or click on a video about the reading order for the books? But either way, I've never personally experienced this. Anybody telling anybody else that a hobby of theirs is a waste of time is silly to me, because chances are you're not some angel good Samaritan who spends all of their free time working with sick kids or something. You're probably not doing that. You're being judgy. So chances are you're probably not doing anything that is less of a waste of time. And also, it's not a waste of time to do something that brings you joy. Again, so long as you are not harming someone else. Number 4 is, I'm not gonna lie, this is more of one that I have brought to the table because I don't know how many other people experience this, but that would be shelf judgment. So I did it was kind of for myself, but also a little experiment. A couple years ago for Christmas, my husband and I lived in a house that's not all that large, and so the main space to decorate for Christmas, where are the bookshelves? So I turned all the books around. I had my Christmas tree right over here, and I put cute little Christmas decor on the shelves, and the amount of comments that I got basically acting like I'm really stupid, I'm not really a real reader if I'm just gonna use my books for decoration, all those kinds of comments. People who organize their books with rainbow patterns, I'm sure you've seen it, they get the same kind of weird judgment. And then you also have judgment where even just having a book on your shelf that somebody doesn't think you should have or doesn't like suddenly means that they are judging you as a human being. And I can't imagine how you could possibly think that a person's intelligence or their value as a human being is tied to the way or the direction that their books are organized. I just can't. Most of this list is just, I just can't understand. I don't understand what it is to be that judgmental. Number 5 would be that the book is always better or that the movie is always better. Just this extreme, this is just how it is. The book is always better. And sometimes the book is not better. Sometimes the movie is better, or a TV show or video game. Sometimes it just works well in some kind of visual media. But then you have people that are like, I'll just watch the movie. I don't like books. Books are dumb. You can't see it. And I think both are understandably a little irksome. But as far as some of the other things on this list, I definitely don't think this one is as annoying. I think it's just, I have been that person. I was definitely that person when my husband and I watched the Witcher show, and I love the video game and I love the books, but they presented the Witcher show as this is going to be a super true adaptation. It's going to be really true to the books, to the point where they wouldn't even let Henry Cavill have some facial hair because they're like, he doesn't have a beard in the books. And they didn't want him to have this one scar that is really present in the games because they're like, oh, well, that scar is not in the books. And then they purposefully changed certain things that I'm like, why did you change that? Or they added stuff and I'm like, don't tell me you're going to give me a super true adaptation and then not make it super true. So most of the reviews for the episodes, I was like, but in the books, and I was definitely that obnoxious person. But I also think that the video game is the best. I like it better than the books. So sometimes, the books aren't better. And then sometimes they are. It just depends. Number 6. I feel like some people are going to feel they're just going to feel this because a lot of us have experienced this before. And that is the, you just didn't get it statement. Everybody's favorite thing that they're told when they don't like something, you just didn't get it. And I'm like, no, sir, because it's usually a man, but sometimes it's a lady. No, sir or madam. It's not that I didn't get it, it's that I didn't like it. The inability for somebody to comprehend that something that they enjoy and think is brilliant might not be enjoyed and thought as brilliant by everyone else is kind of more on you than it is on another individual. All I can ever think when people say you just didn't get it is, no, you just don't get the fact that people are different and our life experiences are different and what we enjoy is different. I do feel the need to say there have been times it sounds like I'm being a giant hypocrite, where people did just miss something and they're like, I just didn't get that this happened. And you're like, oh, that's because of this though. And they're like, oh, that's happened before. That's not really what we're talking about. We're talking about, I didn't enjoy this book. Here's why. And someone's like, you just didn't get it. You didn't get it. No. Kind of going hand in hand with that last one is the you're not a real fan kind of argument, any form of gatekeeping. So this also ties back to the beginning of the whole come talk to me when you've reread the series, come talk to me when you've read the series 4 or 5 times. The idea that you have to have gone beyond just reading the book to be able to like the book and be a fan of the book, it's always really dumb. Or, you know what? Sometimes people read books and they don't they keep reading other things. And then a year or two later, they still love that thing that they read a year or two before, but they don't remember all the details. And then you feel like you got to quiz them to see if they're a real fan. It's like, they read it a while ago. Sometimes people don't remember everything, which is different from people who skim read because they just want to be a part of the conversation of things that are popular, which sadly does happen. But usually the people that are like, you're not a real fan if, and then they fill in the blank with some stupid example of what it means to be a real fan. It's never, the only time it makes sense is if you said you're not a real fan if you haven't read the books. That's it. That's the only thing that can determine if a person is a real fan or not. Next up, we have book treatment, meaning whether you dog ear your pages, whether you break the spines. Some people are just cringing, just imagining it. Other people are like, I don't get the big deal. Here's how I feel. I don't care how you treat inanimate objects that are yours. If I let you borrow something of mine, I'm like, please be careful. And then you spilled all over it and you wrote all over it, I would definitely be frustrated with you. But I don't care if it's yours. Imagine you are in your house and someone else broke the spine of their book. Literally, it has no impact on your life. The next one is that doesn't make sense though. So this happens, I would say this happens when you're talking to, there's a few different ways that this happens. So sometimes somebody will really like a book and they'll be telling someone the synopsis and they'll be like, oh, this is what the book is about. And people will be like, that doesn't really make any sense though. And you're like, you haven't even read it. And they're like, well, what about this thing though? And I'm like, I mean, do you want me to spoil the book for you? Or do you want to just read the book? Or don't read the book, but I promise it makes sense, but I can't tell you everything. And then this one, I find this second variation of this happens more I see in sci-fi, which is when sci-fi authors write something futuristic. And so in a sense, they're writing magic because the thing that they're describing is not actually real. But they provide enough math, science, technological advances to where it feels like something could be real. And then you get the like real smart, like, oh, but that doesn't make sense though because, and somebody is explaining it. And you're like, yeah, we know. It doesn't exist. We know it's not possible. We know it doesn't make sense because it literally isn't real. They made it up. We know. You're not smarter than everybody else for being able to point at something and be like, but actually, no. Because the rest of us can do that too. Because it's not real. We know it's not real. This last one of you submitted, I had to include. I will admit I've never had this before, but I thought it was funny enough to include, and I'm actually very curious if other people have had this happen. They said that when they tell people they're in a book club, that people think that that's just an excuse to have a drunk wine night, which I thought was really funny. And I think they even joked that, why can't I drink wine and get drunk and read my book too? Which I thought was quite amusing. But do any of you have that? You have some kind of work book club or your friends have a book club and people just think it's an excuse to get drunk? Anyway, that is it for 10 more things that bookworms can't stand hearing. Like I said, I will have part 1 and that reaction video in the description bar down below. I had so much fun with these. Thank you everybody for submitting all of the things that annoy you. Of course, these are all very trivial and at the end of the day, way more important things going on that are actually bothersome. But every now and then it's fun to vent about these silly things. But anyway, thanks so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day and I'll see you all later. Bye.